If you are trying to learn how to code in 2026, you are probably staring at a massive wall of noise. Between thousands of tools, frameworks, and a constant stream of new AI systems, it is incredibly easy to feel paralyzed. This video will cut through that noise. We will walk through an exact sequence so you know exactly what to learn and when. First, we have to clear up what programming actually is. It is not about memorizing syntax or grammar, like learning Spanish or French. Programming is pure problem solving. You are learning how to break a big problem into tiny, literal steps and giving the computer a highly specific set of instructions to follow. You might be wondering if you need a 4-year computer science degree to do this. The short answer is no. A degree is helpful, but hiring in 2026 comes down to tangible skills. Employers want to see how well you communicate, how you think through problems, and most importantly, the actual projects you have built yourself. To get you building those projects, you need to pick a starting language. This animated matrix filters out the dozens of options out there based on industry demand. Notice what is left at the bottom: JavaScript, which powers almost everything on the web, and Python, which is the engine for data and AI. Your goal right now is to pick exactly one of those two languages. Choose JavaScript for web apps or Python for data, and completely ignore everything else. Stick to that single choice. Choosing a language is really just picking your first-hand tool. The real objective in these early days is to wire your brain to think logically. You need to understand how to swing a hammer before you try to build a skyscraper. In fact, learning to code is exactly like constructing a house. You don't start with the roof. You start by learning how to use those basic hand tools. As we can see with these geometric blocks snapping together on screen, every piece of software relies on the same core concepts. You have variables that store information, loops that repeat actions, and functions that group instructions together. These are your raw materials. Here is the golden rule of learning to code. Watching videos and memorizing what those blocks do is completely useless unless you immediately open an editor and write it yourself. You start small, using basic blocks to build a simple calculator. Once working, you move to something harder, like a weather app. Eventually, these concepts scale to build a massive dashboard. Building progressively harder projects is the only way this works. It is the only mechanism that turns the abstract theory in your head into permanent, reliable developer muscle memory. As you build, you are going to break things. That is a normal part of construction, which is why developers use a system to track their structural changes over time. This is where a tool called Git comes in. Git acts as a secure save point for your code, taking a snapshot of your historical blueprint. GitHub is simply the cloud network where developers go to store and share those blueprints with others. Once your blueprints are saved, you can focus on building out the actual application. This diagram shows a house cross-section to explain the layers of web development. The illuminated outer layer is the front end, the paint and windows the user interacts with. The facade then dims as internal pipes light up.
This is your back end, the hidden plumbing. These pipes flow into a basement vault, your database, storing user information. To make sure those pipes can handle a rush of water without bursting, we use data structures and algorithms. You can think of this as the structural engineering math required to make sure your code runs efficiently when thousands of people try to use it at once. You have to balance building your visual projects with understanding that structural math. If you ignore the engineering side, you risk building a beautiful application that collapses under the weight of its own inefficiency. Now let's talk about the 2026 landscape. AI is not replacing developers. Instead, it acts as a specialized subcontractor team that you manage, handling coding, debugging, and reviews. But there is a major trap right now. A lot of developers try to write one massive prompt, expecting a single AI model to research, plan, and code all at the same time. That system is fragile, and it collapses under its own weight. To fix this, we use a multi-agent architecture. Notice how the single choked node splits into 4 smooth-flowing lanes. Specialized agents handle specific jobs. A router directs traffic, a planner maps steps, a worker executes the task, and a reviewer checks for errors. For a professional environment, sending your company's private code or secret documents to an external cloud server is a massive security risk.
To solve this, developers use small language models. These are highly focused AI models that run entirely on your own local hardware, keeping your data strictly on your own hard drive. Running these models locally requires specific hardware. As this dashboard illustrates, you do not need the fastest processor on the market. Instead, look at that VRAM capacity meter. Think of VRAM like the size of the desk the AI works on. If the desk is too small, the AI model simply won't fit, and it won't be able to run at all. Handing an automated AI team access to your computer is risky. You must build defensive layers, called sandboxes. Think of these like digital isolation rooms that keep the AI locked away so it can't accidentally delete files or access personal data. You also want a person to manually approve any high-risk actions before they happen. When you build this secure, local team of agents, the real-world value is immense. Your local setup autonomously processes about 80% of your daily private workflow entirely for free, and you only pay to route the heaviest, most complex reasoning tasks up to the massive cloud models. What this 2026 roadmap ultimately reveals is a shift in your role. Coding is moving away from manually typing text into an editor. As you can see, the modern developer is much more like an orchestra conductor, actively managing and directing a complete digital operating system. But you cannot safely direct an autonomous AI workforce if you do not understand the work they are doing. Mastering the foundational logic of coding yourself is the absolute prerequisite to managing these systems. Your first step starts right now. Pick your starting language, download a code editor, and build your basic foundation. Mastering those fundamental building blocks today is the only path to becoming the director of tomorrow's